Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to The Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome, my lovely listeners, to another episode of The Social Circus. Today, my special guest is Sharon Wilkes Burke, who is a certified life coach, speaker, and host of the upcoming podcast, Unravelling the Diary of a Midlife Mess. After 30 years as a hair and makeup artist helping women feel better about how they look, Sharon now helps midlife women feel better about who they are, one messy middle story at a time. With warmth, humour, and a healthy dose of honesty, she guides women through the big identity shifts of midlife using journaling, curiosity, and radical self-kindness as tools to compost what no longer needed so we can begin to grow something new. Welcome, Sharon.
Hello, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm so well. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today because I think you're going to resonate with a lot of my listeners. So I always love to start my interviews by asking, and I guess maybe it's a bit self-explanatory, I'd love to hear what inspired you to start your business, The Messy Middle Life.
Okay, well, I think it's funny because you kind of give a business a name and then you kind of go, oh yeah, that kind of sounds good. And then you begin to fully embody that name, which is brilliant, really. Terrifying, but brilliant. So how it started, I've been in business since I was 21 years old. So, that's quite a few years. And this is starting out in my original, my career has always been in hair, makeup, beauty, that kind of industry. And it was about 2020 when, of course, good old lockdown. And it was one of those, and I think so many women or so many people can relate to this, actually, this whole kind of like that moment of stillness that we all had that went, that pause for that, for the first time, that was for many of us, that was the first time in our careers where we'd had the opportunity to kind of go, is this what I want to be doing? And I had loved my job. I'd been, a hair and makeup artist for, over 20, 30 years. And I'd never considered doing anything else. And then there was that sudden pause where you're not doing anything. And then there was a self-worth wobble that came in, the kind of like, who am I without this job? If I don't have this, if I don't do what I do, then who am I, And in my role, sort of I'm weekly, I know with brides, and every week there's platitudes, every week there's people telling you like how amazing you are and you're a wizard and all of these wonderful things, which is, beautiful.
Lovely.
But then if you don't get those, it's like, oh. And I think that was the first time that I sort of questioned my self-worth and realized actually how much of my self-worth was wrapped up in my job. And I think that question of, who am I without this really kind of struck me.
Yeah.
And then there was this feeling of feeling quite done. Like I'd given it as much as I wanted to give. I'd kind of reached this point in my career. I was, I had two successful businesses. I had the bridal hair and makeup business, and I also ran a bridal hair styling academy. So I teach other hair and makeup artists how to, run businesses and style hair and all of those things. But it was like a switch went off. And I felt absolutely, I don't wish to go any further with this. I've done as much as I want to do with it. But then again, that question, who am I without this? What else could I do?
Yes.
And during this time, I was mentoring other women in business with in the hair and beauty industry businesses. And when I would do like one-to-ones, there was always a part in the middle of the day, and this is when we do one-to-one training, but there was always a part in the middle of the day with this kind of business mentoring session. And within that, I realized that was the gold, because that was the bit where I shifted something in them that made them see themselves differently.
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought, oh, actually, that's coaching. And I really wanted to learn how to be better at that, ask those better questions to really kind of help people to see themselves differently, because I think that's kind of, obviously that's where the gold is. So I went and did my coaching cert, spent 2 years doing my professional coaching certificate, which was joyous. It says, that's a teeny tiny J. Because actually, I'll tell you why. because trying to study when you are going, you're full-blown perimenopause and you have brain fog and you can't retain any information for more than 3.5 seconds. So feel that challenge. Well, so I studied my coaching cert, but as I was doing that, I was aware of how much value there was in that for me because of what I was going through, because of this kind of feeling of being done, this feeling of not actually knowing who I was anymore, and when you start to feel that way, when you start to feel that, you low self-worth, and of course that then affects your confidence, and there's this kind of like, it's an unraveling. I mean, it is an unraveling. The ground starts to feel kind of wobbly beneath your feet, whereas before it felt very solid. You knew who you were, you knew what you were going towards, and all of a sudden, all that is feeling very, very shaky. And I could see that what I was learning in my coaching training was really, really helping me. And I thought, God, this has got to be so valuable to so many other women. There's got to be so many other women that are going through this. And then as I started to have those conversations, I thought, God, yes, there are so many women going through this. And nobody talks about this side of perimenopause. It's always when we talk about it, we talk about the physical aspects of it. So we talk about, the hot flashes, and we talk about the insomnia and the itchy skin and your hair loss and all the other things. I mean, all that. Having said that, there's a great number of things on that list that I should barely ever get mentioned. But so you're assuming that perimenopause or menopause is just kind of like, you just get angry and you don't sleep very much and you're going to get really hot. But actually, the emotional side of it, because of course, it is actually a brain, it is happening in your brain, is the low confidence, is the kind of low self-worth, is all these kind of things where you suddenly don't feel who you are. You don't even know who you are anymore, and it's odd, when you've always been very secure and you're kind of like, oh, I know exactly who I am, where I'm going and what I'm about. And then obviously at this time of life, a lot of your roles start to change. So your kids are going to start growing up and leaving you home and not needing you so much. So of course that part of you that has defined who you are, that suddenly that's not there anymore. And there's all of these, and again, it could be in your career where you've reached this point where you actually don't want to go any further, or you've gone as far as you can go or as far as you want to go. And again, that was a role that defined you. So that's part of your identity. So there's all these parts of you that are falling away. And it's really quite unnerving. And nobody talks about this side of it. When you kind of if I was to ask my mum about perimenopause, she'd go, oh, I don't really remember.
Off. And I think that because I think we're similar age, I'm 50, and I know because I've talked to my mum extensively about it, and I was going through hormone treatment in my 20s at the same time my mum was going through actual menopause, and we were both going through menopause. Mine was medical, hers was not. So I kind of got a touch of it then, of what it was good. So this is my 4th run at menopause.
Wow, it's fun.
I know, it's exciting. Such a pro. I know, I'm like such an overachiever. So but what's different now is all those things that you talked about. So having been through medical menopause, I understand all the physical symptoms and I understand things like the brain fog and the emotions and all that. What's different now is what my life is doing around me. And that's all those things that you talked about. Like, I heard people say, so my sons are 17 and 19 and my baby who would have been at year 12 this year, left school last year unexpectedly and is doing brilliantly, working in a trade and stuff. And my older son's at university, but still is home. It is basically an adult. And like when my oldest left school at the end of, gosh, what year is it? 2023, that felt like a huge monumental shift because so much of your identity is wrapped up in being a school mum. And then I was like, I've still got my baby to go. And then that all changed last year. And that was so overwhelming. And I cried a lot over that. And of course, being in perimenopause, that just it just exacerbated that. And I don't think I had any idea that that was coming at me. Like if someone said to me, oh, it will all change when your kids leave school, I'd be like, it'll be fine. And because, because you're so used to rolling with the evolution of parenthood, and you don't kind of realize it's coming at the same point where things might be changing in your relationship with your partner. Like you say, the things changing in your business or your career felt like a perfect storm. And I was just gossiping to someone else earlier today and I just said, I'm finding this all a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is the perfect storm is the absolute correct, it is. It all kind of comes together and nobody talks about it.
And I don't think, not only does nobody talk about it, but I don't think I realized that it was going to hit me so hard. Like, I don't think I realized all of the feelings, like, as we say to little kids, big feelings, or had a lot of big feelings. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's talked about because, like, our parents were very much that stoic generation that got on with stuff. And I think if I said to my mum now, she'd go, "We'll just get on with it." That's what she would say.
Yeah.
Because that's what you did. You did just get on with it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm kind of not getting on with it. I'm actually not doing great. So,
Yeah.
so in terms of where you step in and talk about this messy middle, which I love that you're having these conversations. How do you find women approach it? Like, where are they coming to you? Like in crisis or just a lack of acknowledgement and awareness?
Um, I think it begins with people just resonating first of all with what you're saying and kind of going, God, yes, there is, when I did market research about 12 months ago, and the question that kind of came up the most was what's next? What's next? And as coaches, we're all kind of like we're quite goal focused. What's your goal? What do you want to be? What do you want? But actually, what I realized was I really had to draw that back because if you don't know who you are, how are you going to have a goal? It has to go back so much further than that because it's no point saying to you, what do you want? Well, I don't know who I am right now. I don't know what I want, because everything's shifting and changing in my life. And I don't know if what I want today is what I want tomorrow. So I realized, and I think this is kind of where I begin to hone, because obviously for me, this is the messy middle. I'm just kind of working this out. This is a kind of new venture for me in a sense that, I'm kind of working this out as I or making this up as I go along, it just kind of working out what's landing and what's not. But actually I think what's landing for me is the fact that there's this when people don't know who they are right now, they're not very we're not very nice to ourselves as women. We'll say things like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm all over the place right now. And just, and we're not very self-compassionate. We don't give ourselves that kind of love and kind of go, actually, you're going through a lot right now. You're going through, there's a lot of changes going on in your life. We don't give ourselves that moment. And, my background, as I say, is like hair and makeup. And I have had literally thousands of women sit in my chair over the 30 odd years. And nobody has ever sat in that front of that mirror and said, God, I look great today. God, I'm feeling so good about myself. Women will always say, as a makeup artist, it's, can you cover the lines? Can you cover my wrinkles? Have you got any polyfiller? Have you got any, wax covered? They'll always say the most terrible things about themselves that they'd never actually say about somebody else.
Yes.
So I think what this has taught me is actually, the first step before we can kind of go making big goals and this is what I'm going to do and just start with just being kind to yourself. Just start with the things that you're saying to the woman in the mirror, that internal voice that's constantly giving a narrative on, God, how stupid you are and you're so ditzy and you're so forgetful, you're so disorganized. No wonder your life's falling apart. You just kind of, let's just pay attention to that. Let's draw this right back before we go making the kind of big plans. And I think this is what I've had to do. This has been because, as somebody who's always been pretty confident, know where I'm going, know what my next goal is, to all of a sudden be in that messy middle, to be in that point of your life where everything feels unstable. It has to start with just giving yourself grace.
I love that. And I'm hoping that that really landed for everyone like it did for me because it's such a true point. Like I can't set goals and I can't work out what's next for me because your identity changes so much. And that
Yeah.
I think that change of identity is so I feel like it's like a tectonic shift. Like one of my really dear friends said to me, she goes, you really love being a mum and it's a really important part of your identity. And I said, I know, I feel like someone snatched it away from me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really hard to work out what's next when you don't even know who you are and you're not applying that. So how do we start doing that? Like Sharon, well, how do we start applying that love and compassion?
Okay, I mean, do you know what? It is the simple things, and I'm gonna say it's simple, and it is simple, but is it? It's not.
It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy.
Doesn't mean it's easy because we're so practiced in the kind of like, oh my god, it's so stupid. Like you'll turn up for a hair appointment a week early, and you'll kind of go, oh my god, I'm so stupid. No, you've probably just got lots of things on your plate right now. So I think it starts off with that. It starts off with beginning to notice what you're saying to yourself, what you're saying to that woman in the mirror. It starts off with those little things. And like, it doesn't need to, but when we talk about self-kindness, we're not talking about kind of taking lots of bubble baths and meditating and lighting candles and all those things, as lovely as those things are. It's actually the really, really simple things. So it is listening to kind of how you talk to yourself. Just if you feel in the middle of the day, you actually just want a nap, just go and have a nap, guilt-free. Take it away. It's not, you're allowed to do these things. It's those kind of micro kindnesses that we need to start building that habit of, or getting into the habit of doing. But also, one of my favorite tools personally for me has been journaling. I'm a big journaler. And I think that's, it's such a powerful tool in just getting all of that stuff down and onto a page, all the stuff that's kind of going on in your head and all of that stuff about how you feel about your identity, the who am I now? Who am I now is actually a great question to ask yourself or write it down in your journal, because your brain, first of all, is programmed to answer a question. If whatever it is, it'll try to find the answer. So, you write that down. And the things that have come out in my journal that have just basically come out into my hand that I didn't even know I was holding in my head has been mind-blowing. So, the who am I now question, get that down, because inside of you is an answer. There's an answer in that. So I'm a big journal fan. So that's kind of one of the tools that's been most effective for me. But yeah, I think it's just it's the small stuff. Honestly, It's the small stuff. And also getting curious, about, on that who am I question, who am I now question, get curious about that. Who are you now? Who are you before all the titles came on? Who are you before your wife, mother, CEO, whatever your role is, whatever your title is? Who's the woman underneath all those layers? And that is not a simple kind of like, oh, I know who I am. Because when I say to people, tell me who you are, and they will tell me their roles, their job titles, their identities, all of those things. Oh, I'm a mum of two and I've got, this is my job and all these. Who are you without all that? And that's a real stumper of a question. You're not going to answer that as a kind of like, oh, I'm a...
Yeah, your mouth will open and there's nothing coming out.
Because actually, I can't answer it without giving you all of those titles. So that's real work there. It's kind of getting deep beneath it. Who are you? And just pulling at threads, curiosity. Just get curious, pull at threads. What did you like? What do you used to like? I listened to a podcast some years ago. There's this woman, and I actually love this because somebody had said to her, who are you? How old do you feel? And she was mid-50s, and she said, I feel about 7, which was an unusual answer because most people usually kind of go 21. Yeah, I'm 21 and I can still got it all, and I still, but 7. And why she said this, which says, because all of a sudden I've just learned to stop and slow down and look at beautiful butterflies and look at the trees and see all these things and run through a pile of crispy autumn leaves and just enjoy life. And I kind of thought, God, yeah. And all of a sudden you forget that you were that kid. You forget how fascinated you were with life, or, how much you loved to draw or read or write poetry or paint or whatever it was that you did when you were a kid. And it's just like, what would it be like to do that again? What would it be like to just explore who you are underneath it all?
Oh, I love that, because as you were talking about, I was like, that's one of the things that's interesting about watching your children grow up, is watching them, the world senses them and they lose their curiosity and they lose their enthusiasm, which is quite sad to see as a parent. And of course, we've already lost that and we are so disconnected from it. And our children remind us of that. So it's a beautiful reminder to go back to what did we enjoy and what do we find curiosity in there? That's a really great thought question, because again, I'm sitting here while you're talking thinking, I don't know if I know the answer to that. And that wouldn't be unusual, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, because we're so kind of like, first of all, it almost seems like it seems like such a luxury to imagine, oh my God, what am I interested in? I ain't got time to think about that.
Yes.
Busy people, we've bringing up kids, and we've been kind of running lives, and we've been running businesses and sorting out everybody else for all these years, that we, to consider for a minute what you might want and what you might enjoy is like, oh, I haven't got time for that. So, and I think that's part of like this shift, because all of a sudden as your kids do, grow up and you're not mumming quite so much, there is this kind of space for time where you could actually explore that. You could actually, because actually it's quite scary, a lot of us just get busier. We'll find busier things to do. We'll find other ways to keep us busy. But actually there's a real power in just slowing down and kind of going, what if I filled that time with something that I really enjoy? And it might lead to nothing, but it might be something really powerful that, leads on to something else. So it's, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, it all sorts of is. Oh, look, Sharon, it has been such a delight talking with you today. I am certain that my listeners are going to, what you're saying is going to really resonate. And I hope for my listeners that you're hearing what Sharon was saying, that it's okay if you don't know the answer to this. And like she said, if you get stumped, it means you need to bring that curiosity. So I hope that listening today hasn't made you feel worse about yourself, because you should know that. It's absolutely fine that you don't, and to know that there are people like Sharon out there that can help you with that. So Sharon, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been delightful chatting with you. For all of my lovely listeners, please check the show notes to find out how you can connect and work with Sharon. And I just want to wrap up and say thank you for that lovely conversation, Sharon.
Oh, I loved it. I loved chatting with you.
My pleasure. To all my lovely listeners, as always, thank you for tuning into The Social Circus. You can catch us the same time every week on your favourite podcast platform.
Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favourite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.